For further information on today's discussion, call Raquel at 614-886-7780. 886-7780. Now, back to Raquel.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Raquel Ludaway Show, Real Talk, Real Solutions on 98.9 FM, The Answer. I'm your host, Raquel Ludaway, and I am here talking today with William A. Thompson, attorney at law, and we've been discussing estate planning. And if you have any further questions, I'm sure we're not going to cover everything today, and I'm sure you have lots of questions. Feel free to give me a call at 614-886-7780, and we will try to get all your questions answered. But we still have a few more things we'd like to cover. And what happens if you do not plan your estate? What's the worst that can happen?
Well, the worst that can happen is the probate court, again, seizes your assets, they pay all your creditors, and leave your heirs with nothing. You want to plan for two reasons. Not just because of death, but again, for while you're alive. And as we recommended, you have power of attorneys for health and finances. But a lot of people call me, particularly seniors, well, I want to plan in case I go into a nursing home. Mm-hmm. And that's really not probate planning. That's life planning. It's a very hard, fast, simple rule. People say, well, I want Medicaid to pay for my long-term nursing home. Medicaid will only pay for long-term nursing home if you're poor. Medicare is for the elderly. You qualify for that when you're 62 and a half.
Okay.
Medicaid is for the poor, no matter how old you are. And the only way to qualify for Medicaid so that Medicaid picks up your nursing home bill is to be poor. Poor is defined as your total assets, everything you own, car, checking account, house, can't total more than $1,500.
Wow.
I'm not saying $15,000, I'm saying $1,500. And to qualify for Medicaid to pay your nursing home, we have to do, some folks are probably familiar with this, called a spend down. We have to spend down your assets until you have no more than $1,500, and then ask for Medicaid to pick up the bill. So what happens is, if you're in a nursing home and you have a house, while Medicaid may pay while you're there, we have to sell the house, reimburse Medicaid,
wow,
and then whatever's left over is used to pay your nursing home bill until you're down to $1,500 in assets. It is for the poor. Mm-hmm. They try to scare seniors, Raquel. They try to say that 20% of all people end up in a nursing home at some point in their life. Well, you know what that means? That means 80% don't end up in a nursing home.
Right.
And what they don't tell you is, of that 20%, that's not all seniors. That's athletes rehabbing from an injury, car crash victims rehabbing. I really think of seniors, only about 11% ever end up in a nursing home. And why do you think most nursing home insurance policies will only pay 2 years' worth of benefits? Because if you haven't rehabbed within 2 years, you're dead. Mm. So I say, you know what? If you want to qualify for nursing home, check into getting an irrevocable spendthrift trust. Now, so a lot of people have heard of living trusts. This is a living trust. You do this while you're alive. That's why it's called a living trust. This is a more sophisticated estate planning and Medicaid tool. The problem with that, and people say, well, I have a trust. All right. Who is the trustee of your trust? I am, they say. I can't do that. Mm-hmm. For Medicaid, you can't be the trustee of the trust, or you still have control over that assets. Who's the beneficiaries that you named in the trust? Well, I am. Nope. You can't be the beneficiary of the trust either. So you literally have to sign away your assets while you're alive into the trust, or some people just give their assets, maybe deed their house over to their children, and it has to be 5 years before you apply for Medicaid. Medicaid has a 5-year look-back rule that says, have you transferred any real estate for less than full value within the last 5 years? Mm-hmm. If you answer yes, they will temporarily, if not permanently, disqualify you from Medicaid.
Wow.
So you have to get everything out of your name 5 years before you go into a nursing home. Well, most people don't know when they're going to be going into a nursing home, and a lot of seniors don't want to give up title to their real estate, or the old gentleman doesn't want to give up title to his car.
Right.
Yeah. So at least plan for death, make them payable on death, because there's a big chance you'll never go into a nursing home. And the short time you're in there, we can pay maybe a month or two, and we want to plan for probate. But the rule is simple here. I'm a firm believer of the acronym KISS. Mm-hmm. Keep it short and simple. Mm-hmm. If you want to qualify that your assets won't be taken away from you if you go into a nursing home, if you also want to avoid probate, then set up an irrevocable trust.
Okay.
where you are not the trustee and you're not the beneficiary, and just have an understanding with your children that, you know what, you'll take care of me. There's things like that, but you really have to trust your kids to do that. Trusts, unfortunately, are very expensive.
Okay.
They usually cost well into the thousands of dollars for attorneys to draft these, no kidding, 40, 50-page documents.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the simple techniques that we talked about earlier in the show, just make sure your assets are either payable on death or joint survivorship. They don't pass through probate. They're very, very inexpensive to do these estate planning tools, and you've at least planned for your death.
So, but if I have children, is a trust something that I might need? I know that if we do what we're supposed to do, because I'm assuming that after listening to the show, everyone's going to give you a call because they need this information and they need you to help them with their estate planning. So, but if they have children, should they think about putting a trust together? Well,
the reason why you have a trust is, number one, to avoid probate.
Okay.
Because most people don't want an irrevocable trust where they're not the trustee and they're not the beneficiary. They want to hold on to the controls. In days gone by, I would say there's two reasons to have a trust: to avoid probate and to avoid estate taxes. Well,
Okay.
Good news, as I promised you in the first portion of the show, Ohio abolished estate taxes. We abolished what some folks call inheritance tax. Let's call it what it is: death tax.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tax on your right to die.
Wow.
We have birth tax. That's called the IRS. Now we have a death tax. And the death tax says everything you own at time of death is subject to estate taxes,
Right.
inheritance taxes. We abolished that. And Ohio was one of the last states to abolish it. We got rid of it 2 years ago. So we don't have a concern with estate taxes anymore, unless, other reason to have a trust, your estate is more than $5 million.
Okay.
The feds have their own inheritance tax. But you don't even have to file a federal inheritance tax return unless your estate is more than $5 million. Well, I asked most people living in the Central Ohio area, do you have $5 million worth of assets?
Right.
No, because if they did, they probably wouldn't be living in the Central Ohio area.
Right.
But if they do, then you know what? Maybe a trust is a good tool for them to also, control when their kids get the money, to control those assets. Maybe to qualify for Medicaid if they make it an irrevocable trust where they're not the beneficiary, and also to avoid probate. And a lot of people want trust because they want to control the assets from the grave. Let's face it, that's what it is.
Right.
And I have a son who's not the most spendthrift son. He may spend it all. Okay, well, let's give it to him in installments. Maybe 25% when he reaches age 21, 25% when he reaches age 25, 30, et cetera. Or go buy a house using these trust assets. You're not limited in trust. Anything you can think of, you can pretty much accomplish for estate planning in a trust, but they're just so darn expensive.
Right. Is there any way to get around doing the trust if you wanted to, in the instance that you said, if you have 3 kids and you want to be able to tell them, okay, at age 20, you get, $30,000, and age 25, you get whatever. Can you do that outside of a trust, or is a trust pretty much all you have in order to do that?
That's pretty much all you have. There are some life insurance policies you can do that have scheduled payouts.
Okay.
But like annuities, things like that. But that's very hard to do.
Okay.
Now, here's the problem in Ohio. People say, I set up a trust. It's my understanding, and I'll be honest with your listeners, trust work is not my forte.
Mm-hmm.
If the beneficiaries of the trust are each going to receive less than $100,000 in total benefits, they can agree to unilaterally terminate your trust.
Wow.
So all that work for nothing. Yeah. So that may be the better thing to do. Put it into an annuity for them that says it'll mature at a certain date, start paying out, things like that.
Okay.
And that's where they want to talk to their financial planner or their insurance agent about those types of tools.
Okay.
And these are all tools meant to complement the probate planning process, which again we keep that out of probate. If you have an annuity, you name beneficiaries on.
So I just want to summarize then from in the terms of an estate plan. What I'm getting from you, the most important thing to do is to try to avoid probate.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what you're planning for. Avoid probate. Preserve your assets for loved ones.
Okay. And so if you're listening today and this topic is something that I'm really passionate about, I think everyone, if you're listening, you should definitely think about what you need to do to plan your estate. I think that's you should be doing that right away. I mean, we're going into the new year. You should be thinking about, let me contact this attorney and have him help you to plan your estate. So just kind of summarize, if you could just give me one thing that you'd really want to make sure that the listeners could take away with, what would that be?
Do something. Mm-hmm. You plan for your vacation more than you do your death. So do something. And the general rule, very simple, is this. Make sure all of your assets are either joint with right of survivorship, so designated, or payable on death. Do not have joint debt.
Okay.
If you can avoid it. Have joint assets, because when you pass away, you're not responsible for somebody else's debts unless you agree to be, or by statute you're responsible for minor children's debts, things like that, medical necessities. But most creditors won't pursue those. So do something. Plan for your death. It's going to happen.
Right.
And then also plan for while you're alive. Have the power of attorney, as we spoke about, and very simple tools that most people can understand in maybe a half-hour meeting with them. And I'm sure we'd all love for you to call me, but you call your attorney and do something. And ask them, hey, how do I hold my real estate? Can I avoid probate with this? How do I hold my bank accounts? Can I avoid probate with that? Mm-hmm. Just don't be satisfied with just getting a last will and testament prepared. You want to avoid probate.
Okay. Bill, tell us again how they can get a hold of you. Where are you located at?
I'm born and raised in Columbus. My office is up in the north end on Polaris Parkway. I'm at the corner of 71 North and Polaris Parkway in the Mettler Toledo building. It's 1900 Polaris Parkway. They can get a hold of me either by phone 785-6483, or with your permission, I'll give my email address.
Absolutely.
It's my real name, William A. Thompson Law, all one word, lowercase, William A. Thompson Law at yahoo.com. And I always prone to say, if I can't help you, I'll get you to somebody who can, but you got to take that first step. You got to call me or call your attorney.
Thank you guys for listening in. I really hope you got something from the show today. Please call Bill. He's going to help you out with all your estate planning. And if you're listening into the show today and you want more information about the topic discussed, give me a call at 614-886-7780. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back same time, same place next week. We'll see you soon.